depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments, and how inscrutable his ways. The young Charles could have gone in a very different direction, given that through the essentially odd way in which he became cardinal at the age of 21, he easily could have taken advantage of what was coming to him in that noble position. His uncle, Pius IV, chose somebody of that noble family, and it was only really when he actually became Archbishop and head of a great church in Italy, which has its own right to this day, the Ambrosian, that the full thrust of grace and providence came into play. For he was not ordained until he was appointed Archbishop of Milan, and then he received the priesthood and the episcopacy all quickly in succession, and took it extremely seriously. Had it been otherwise, what a disaster for the church in Milan, but he did, and he became a great applier of the thrust of renewal, the Counter-Reformation, the Catholic Reformation, coming in the wake of the Council of Trent. Schools, seminaries, and a clean and fervent clergy. He knew that if the clergy was pure, the rest would follow. And he got to know his clergy, and also the whole of the great archdiocese which Providence had put him in charge of, visiting 5 times that massive diocese, getting to know therefore the individuals in harness. And he gave a whole spirituality to his clergy, which is valid to this day. Brothers, do understand this. There is nothing quite so necessary to all churchmen as mental prayer. He was encouraging them to engage with what they were doing in contemplative mode. The sanctification of the priest is in the engagement with what is passing through him. He is touching the Blessed Trinity and a channel thereof. And therefore, essentially, the very act of interiorizing what he is doing all day is his sanctification. The interiorized soul in the celebration of all the sacraments and the preaching of the word and the handing on of teaching. God is there. Essentially, all he has to do is switch on to what he is and what he is doing all the time, and he will become a great saint. That Providence, which in 1564, therefore after he was already cardinal, made of this young man a great saint, would have the same effect on his clergy. He wanted a holy clergy, and he insisted. Prayer that paves the way for every act we do, therefore preparation, calm mode, contact with, and absorption of, before, during, and after. The same acts, but done intensely. What a difference. Notice that he's not adding further duties, but turning them fully on to what is in their hands. The psalmist says, I will sing and I will understand. Psalam et intelligam. Brother, when you administer the sacraments, try to understand what it is you are doing. When you celebrate Mass, consider what it is you are offering. And, singing in choir, remember to whom you are speaking and what you are saying to him. In our day we have the advantage of a more aerated office, and therefore we are invited to pause after the psalms, after the reading, because the pensum, the feeling of duty, has been changed into one of celebratory mode, where we enjoy and make beautiful what is there, even alone singing the psalms. The office is truly a celebration, and we have a privilege in our time to be able to handle it as such. In the days of old, the parish priest had virtually the same pensum, the same amount of things to be done liturgically as the monk. The difference being that he wouldn't be singing it, but would be whispering it. The obligation to whisper was there. And therefore, in practice, he would go quickly and do big chunks, offices piled up. He would be dutiful and would have it all finished by midnight. But the notion of sanctifying moments quietly with celebration of the hour in question had been lost, and the Second Vatican Council wanted it restored. The veritas horarum, the truth of the hours. The hour would be celebrated at its liturgical moment. And therefore the piling up of offices was to be avoided. Prière du temps présent was the title given to the interim breviary in France, the one that came out immediately after the council until the full Liturgia Horarum was completed. But it was a good title, Prayer of the Present Time. The present is sacrificed and made, as it were, sacramental. The whole of work is offered up by the sanctification of time in pauses, regular comings back to base, back to base, back to base. If you are in charge of souls, cura animarum, the care, the cure of souls. A curate is one who cares for souls, curatus. Remember in whose blood they have been washed. Now this gives a divine vision of the soul. The place of the priest is with souls. Even better if it can be done one-to-one. That is when he's truly a priest, and the Spirit is passing through him on every level, including his humanity. For a dysfunctional humanity is a great obstacle to efficacious priestly ministry, but a worn personality is a huge benefit to man and to God. The first encounter is that of our humanity, and if that is dysfunctional, the rest has a great job to pass. And by the way, it is important not to forget that in our time, for there are situations developing in which the sacerdotal is being delegated and the lay is being reserved to the priest, and he's becoming in some areas a great managerial expert, sitting himself before a computer, doing very important things, no doubt, But when the true soul-to-soul ministry is being handed over to lay people, I know from experience, from listening to what people say here and in Italy, that actually they really want a priest and not a lay person. A lay person can only do certain things, but a complete ministry to souls involves the complete sacramental spectrum. It actually damages souls to force them to receive Holy Communion when they want really confession and a talk. They want to unburden. And at certain stages of people's lives, that's really what is needed most. One cannot presume, for instance, that elderly people do not sin. They do. And they need all the sacraments, not just a part of the sacramental system in isolation. And the Holy Spirit passes through the priestly heart of the one ordained in a way which is far more intense than can possibly happen when a person hasn't received all the sacraments. The Holy Spirit is involved in all the priestly life of the one consecrated to the work of souls and the ministry at the altar. He has grace of state. The Spirit works in the one set apart for certain things. Lay people can do much at a computer. A lay person can set out very well the parish bulletin and do the accounts. A priest needs to be with souls. Nothing can replace that eminent role of the pastor and guide of souls. He is a mystagogue at the altar. He leads them into a cloud of glory, but is also their pilot on the waves and must bring them safely to the haven of rest, heaven. He has the word of the Spirit for a difficult situation. So, they have to remember in whose blood they have been washed. Let all that you do be done in love. One can add, in peace. Let the priest radiate healing love. And healing love is peaceful and serene and tranquil. In French, il ne heurte pas. He doesn't jab. In this way, we shall easily overcome the 1,001 difficulties that necessarily beset us every day, just as the world we live in. And lastly, in this way, we shall find the strength to bring forth Christ in ourselves and in others. We cannot give what we haven't got. Christ was beloved and met, and people sense when they're meeting somebody who knows the Lord. Ecce ancilla Domini